$1,000. It's a lot of money, but at the same time, it's not a lot of money. But if you know how to use it the right way, then it could quite literally change the trajectory of your life forever. But you have to know how to use it properly. Follow me. If I had to start over and I only had $1,000, what exactly would I do with that money? How would I use that money effectively to have a lasting impact on my life? Would I invest it in the stock market? Perhaps pay off some high interest debt? Or maybe I would just go and play the lottery, buy a bucket of tickets and hope that I win loads of money? Well, not all of those are bad ideas. I mean, you could invest the $1,000 into the stock market, buy a low-cost Vanguard index fund or ETF and earn an easy, sweet 7 to 8% return each year. And you could use that money to go and pay off high interest debt. There's really no point investing in the stock market to get an 8% return if your credit card is charging you a whopping 19% in interest. And playing the lottery, I mean, you have a better chance of being hit by a meteor than you do winning the lottery. So it's probably safe to skip that one. What's up guys, Joshua here. Hey, if you're new, welcome. I love talking about finance, drinking coffee, it's so tasty, and clapping my hands because I get really excited when I'm talking about this stuff because I'm a finance nerd. And if you're not new, then welcome back. I love seeing you here and you're amazing. So, what exactly would I do with $1,000? How exactly would I invest that? The answer to that question is really gonna come down to your specific life situation, where you currently stand financially, and what your long-term goals are. So I'm gonna give you a list, a prioritized list from first to last of how exactly you should start investing your $1,000 in order to maximize your return. Starting with number one, which is investing in yourself. Now wait a second, okay, before you close out of the video, because I know you've heard this same exact thing from hundreds of other people, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, great, another genius telling me to invest in myself. I want real, practical, and actionable ways to start investing my money. And I promise you, we will get to that stuff, but we first have to build a solid foundation for you to start building on. Now, here's the thing. I'm not telling you to go buy one of those scam courses that cost $998, and they're gonna teach you to turn $1 to $1 million in a week. Avoid all that garbage at all costs. Do not spend your money on that. Instead, I want you to focus on learning a new skill, or like building a new trade, or starting your own business. Something that can like really increase your income by 10, 100, 1,000 fold. And by the way, this doesn't have to cost you a fortune. In fact, in most cases, it shouldn't cost you that much at all. There are countless course websites out there that you can use to start learning a new skill for very cheap. Super affordable books on Amazon or eBay, and you can even check the internet archives to find some free books. And most importantly, there's Google and YouTube, where you can quite literally search for anything in the world and you can find that information for free. Another way that you can invest in yourself is by starting a business. Now, I'm not talking about like a brick and mortar store that's gonna cost you a few $100,000 to start. I'm talking about an internet business where in most cases you can start for under $1,000. For example, perhaps it's YouTube. If you wanted to start your own YouTube channel, then you would probably need a camera and a microphone and maybe some lights. Or maybe you just use your phone. The camera on your phone is probably more than sufficient to start on YouTube. And then you can just buy a super cheap lavalier mic on Amazon, buy some super cheap lights on Amazon, or just go to YouTube and type in DIY lights and then just build your own lights for super cheap. Regardless of what it is, you have to begin investing in yourself. You have to increase your income. As Dan Locke always says, you don't have an income problem, you have a skill problem. Invest in you first, increase your income, and then you can take that income and start investing more in the stock market or in cryptocurrencies or in real estate, which we'll get to in just a little bit here. Okay, so after you've invested in yourself, the next priority is gonna be to pay off high interest debt. Now, I'm specifically saying high interest debt because your mortgage is not high interest debt. More than likely, your car payment is not high interest debt. I'm talking about things like credit cards, personal loans. These things will eat you alive if you don't get them taken care of as soon as possible. The interest rates on this type of debt are usually so high that there's no investment in the world, except for maybe crypto, which is highly speculative, but there's no investment in the world that would give you a return large enough that would justify you not just paying off the debt first. So get rid of all that high interest debt, and then you can just get on with your life and begin building a strong financial future. Now, if you don't have any high interest debt to worry about, then the next thing you're gonna wanna focus on is building an emergency fund. I know, this is super boring, but it is so important. There was a study done, and it showed that nearly 40% of Americans couldn't afford to pay for an unexpected $1,000 expense. I mean, we're talking over 132 million Americans. Now, the experts say that you need to have at least 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved up in your emergency fund. And that's not a bad idea, but at least start off with $1,000. And that'll give you a really good foundation in case something does pop up. You don't have to dip into your retirement account or something like that. Okay, now is where the fun begins. You see what I did there? We're talking about like index funds and exchange traded funds. So dumb. So if you've already taken care of all the previous priorities on this list, then you can finally start investing. Now, what I would recommend you do is find a super simple, low cost, low risk exchange traded fund or index fund. You can buy these at any broker. My two favorite are Vanguard and Webull, links below. And the two ETFs that I would recommend are VTI and VOO. VTI is Vanguard's total stock market index fund ETF. This is an ETF that tracks the entire US stock market and it holds about close to 3,800 US stocks. VOO, or just VOO, is Vanguard's S&P 500 ETF. This ETF specifically tracks the S&P 500, which is a stock market index that tracks 500 of the largest companies in the US. Now, the returns on VOO tend to be slightly higher than VTI, but that's because VOO is a slightly riskier ETF. But you honestly can't go wrong with either. Okay, I want you to pay attention very closely because what I'm gonna say is super important. Even if you invested the full $1,000 to buy a few shares of one of these ETFs, this wouldn't be enough to make you a fortune. However, the point in doing it is just to get started. If you could just get a small taste of what investing is like by just purchasing a few shares of an ETF, then that'll be enough to sort of act as an icebreaker to get you started. And ideally, if you actually took the first point on this list seriously, investing in yourself, then you'll increase your income, which means you'll have more money to invest. And the more you invest, the more your wealth is built exponentially because of compound interest. It's also worth mentioning that if you don't already have a Roth IRA, I would highly recommend you open one. They are completely free to open, and it's a type of retirement account that gives your investments tax-free growth. So let's say, for example, that after this video you went and you purchased a couple of shares of an ETF, right? And then you just kept on doing that for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. You did it so much that eventually your investment grew to over $1 million. Well, if that $1 million was inside of a Roth IRA, then you would owe the IRS a whopping $0.00. That's right, instead of paying close to $500,000 on your investment gains, you would owe the IRS nothing. And boy, does that make them mad. And so I highly recommend that you open a Roth IRA as soon as possible. The tax benefits that you get from it are just way too worth it. Okay, now it's time for the cherry on top. And if you're like me and you don't like cherries on top, then imagine it's like whipped cream on top or chocolate syrup. I don't know, use your imagination. It is paramount that you begin tracking your net worth. Now, I know that sounds like a little vain, but there's a reason for this. It's like setting goals for yourself, right? Imagine you set like a New Year's resolution, but you didn't set any mini goals to help you reach that big New Year's resolution. The odds of you failing have just increased by like 100-fold. However, if you break down the big goal with small bite-sized goals, then it's gonna be a lot easier for you to achieve those small goals. And when you achieve the small goals, then inevitably you're gonna achieve the big goal without even realizing it. And the same exact thing is true with your money. Maybe you wanna be a millionaire, or perhaps you just wanna save up $40,000 for a down payment on a house. It doesn't really matter. The point is, by tracking your net worth using an app like Personal Capital or Mint, both of which are free, you're subconsciously keeping yourself accountable and making sure that you're actually being responsible with your money. It's kind of like having your frugal grandmother or something in your pocket. She's watching you, she's holding you accountable. Hey, do me a massive favor and drop a like on the video below. It helps out so much you have no idea, and I would love you for it eternally, really. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel but you love finance content like this, definitely subscribe, turn on the bell notifications so that you can be notified whenever I post. And as always, I appreciate you so much, and I will see you again very soon. Take care.